When we talk about Larry Bird, we usually talk about greatness. We talk about the rings, the MVPs, the killer instinct, the behind-the-back passes, the jaw-dropping buzzer beaters. We talk about the man who walked into a three-point contest and told everyone which of you is coming in second. We talk about the trash talk, the toughness, the legacy. But what we don't talk about enough is who gave him problems. Who made Larry Bird uncomfortable? Who made Larry Legend stay up at night thinking about counters and solutions? There's only one man Bird ever credited like that. One name he repeated in multiple interviews, even decades after they last faced off. It wasn't Magic Johnson. It wasn't Dr. J. It wasn't even Dennis Rodman. It was Michael Cooper, a defensive specialist, a role player, a basketball genius in his own right. And this is the story of how one of the most underrated defenders in NBA history earned the respect of one of the greatest to ever do it, Larry Bird.
Mullen comes underneath, all the way, Cooper blocks, Stepper, Cooper blocked the shot. Michael Cooper, he's going to slam it. Magic Johnson. What a block by Cooper, showing why he's such a great defensive player. The Magic. Ahead to Bird. Block shot by Cooper.
Best defensive player ever guarded me was Michael Cooper. I'll take that to my grave with me.
Bird didn't just play the game, he studied it, he dissected it. He respected the process more than almost any other superstar. We hear players today say things like, I let the game come to me, or I take what the defense gives me. But Bird, he took what he wanted. He bent defenses to his will. But even legends have their challenges. Bird once mentored a young Peja Stojakovic and told him, you've always got to add something to your game. Hooks, runners, lefty shots around the hoop. I used to work on those because of Michael Cooper. Let that sink in. Bird practiced left-handed shots, hooks, floaters, not because he wanted to or he wanted to be flash, but because Cooper made him dig deeper. He forced Bird into the lab. That's not something you hear often from the all-time greats. Most elite scorers will say nobody can stop me, but Bird, he was honest enough, self-aware enough to admit that there was one guy who got in his head. And that mentality to go the extra mile, to work harder, to be ready is what separated Bird from so many of his peers. Now let's flip it. Let's talk about the other half of the equation. Who actually was Michael Cooper? Born in Los Angeles, drafted by the Lakers in 1978 in the third round, Coop didn't enter the league with a ton of hype. No one was calling him the next great thing. He was skinny, lanky, and not exactly built like your prototypical lockdown defender. But he had something: basketball IQ, tenacity, and a motor that never ever stopped running. Cooper made his name with defense. He could guard 4 positions comfortably. He was long with a 6'5" frame, quick feet, fast hands, and a mindset that was just different. He once said, I treated every game like a test. I studied film, I looked for tendencies, I wanted to know exactly where a guy would try to go before he even dribbled. That's chess, not checkers. And while Magic and Kareem were getting headlines, Coop was saving games. He made 8 all-defensive teams. He won Defensive Player of the Year in 1987, and he was a pivotal piece in 5 Lakers championships. When people think about the Celtics vs Lakers rivalry, they think Magic vs Bird, Showtime vs Grit, East vs West. But in those legendary showdowns, there was a hidden battle, a cold war beneath the lights. It was Bird versus Cooper. It was intellectual warfare. Bird once said, the best ever defensive player to guard me was Michael Cooper. I'll take that to the grave with me. That quote wasn't just a compliment, it was a confession. Because Bird, who would normally dominate defenders in any way, shape or form, had to strategize around Cooper. He couldn't just react, he couldn't just go in blind. He had to pre-plan, to adjust, to counterpunch everything Coop would throw at him. Coop wasn't just physical like Rodman. He wasn't bulky like Mahorn. He didn't rely on brute force. He used precision, angles, timing, psychology, and even though Bird still dropped buckets, because of course this is Larry Bird we're talking about, he had to work harder for them than ever before. And truth be told, the Celtics had a tough time winning when Coop was locked in. In their matchups, the Lakers held a 12-8 record over Bird's Celtics. That's not just noise, that's control. And those matchups helped define the greatest rivalry in NBA history. Let's look at how Cooper actually did. His strength wasn't just his physical gifts, it was his preparation. He'd watch hours of film, studying Bird's release points, pivot foot tendencies, which direction he'd like to spin, and how he used his offhand for separation. Coop said Larry didn't play fast, but he played smart. He'd lull you to sleep, then he'd hit you with something you didn't expect. So I had to stay mentally awake every single possession. He knew Bird liked to get to the mid-post on the left elbow. So Coop would shade him just enough to the baseline where the help would come. But Bird wasn't falling for it twice. He'd pump fake, wait for the bite, and spin back middle. It was high-level chess. Even teammates noticed. Magic Johnson said Coop was our secret weapon. He made life tough on the other team's best player every single night. And Lakers coach Pat Riley, he trusted Coop so much that in late game situations, he'd sometimes run defensive sets around him. Imagine that. Designing schemes not around your offense, but around your defensive stopper. Here's where it gets wild though. Larry Bird, the guy who trash talked while shooting over your best defender, the guy who told rookies what spot he'd score from before the play even started, actually feared Cooper. Not feared in the sense of being scared, but feared in the sense that he respected him so much that it altered his behavior. Bird was spending entire off-seasons developing left-handed shots just for the chance he'd meet Coop again in the finals. And the irony, while Bird was busy preparing for Coop, every other team in the league was busy preparing for Bird. Coaches ran defensive simulations just for Larry. Guys were benched because they couldn't slow him down. Entire scouting reports revolved around one player, Larry Bird. He was that dominant. So it's kind of beautiful, this circular dance of preparation. Bird worried about Coop, the league worried about Bird. And somewhere in the middle, we saw some of the greatest basketball ever played. So why does this all matter? Because too often we remember the scorers, the flash, the buckets. We forget the guys who made those moments hard to get. Michael Cooper doesn't have statues. He's not constantly mentioned in the GOAT discussion, or really any discussion. He's not making TikToks or selling signature shoes. But what he does have is the respect of Larry Bird. And honestly, that might mean more. To be immortalized in the mind of your greatest rival. To be the reason he worked harder. That's the highest praise imaginable. It reminds us that defense actually does matter. That intelligence and effort can equalize talent. That the guys who stop the show deserve just as much credit as the ones who are the show. Cooper is one of the most underrated defenders ever, maybe the most, and he deserves his flowers, not just for what he did, but for who he did it against. Larry Bird versus Michael Cooper wasn't just a battle of stat lines, it was a battle of minds, a clash of respect, a reminder that even legends have kryptonite. And in a league filled with scorers and stars and max contracts, sometimes the real MVP is the one who keeps the superstar up at night. So next time you're talking about the greatest defenders to ever live, the guys who won Defensive Player of the Year, don't forget about Michael Cooper, because Larry Bird never did. But what do you guys think? Is Cooper the most underrated defender in NBA history? And if Larry Bird says he was the best to ever guard him, what more do we really need? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget, if you enjoyed this video, hit that like and share button and subscribe for more upcoming videos and deep dives into NBA history. My name is Damian Peters, this is Basketball Network. As always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.